kill him.
Daddy! I have to find my daughter.
Chaos will reign supreme. This is game over.
We are talking Welcome to Sudden Death. And let me tell you, this is one of the most bizarre movies I have ever seen. This one is directed by Dallas Jackson and stars Michael J. White and Michael Eklund and comes out on Dazzler Media on the 22nd of March in the UK. This is a remake of the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Sudden Death, actually one of Van Damme's better movies in my opinion. And here we have Michael J. White playing the central hero role. He's an ex-military guy who is injured, now taking a security job at a conference centre, sports, all that sort of thing. And there is a basketball game being played there, and he's relatively new to the job. Decides he's going to take his kids to the to his job one day, and this happens to be the same day as a group of criminals led by Michael Eklund's character decides they are going to break in, wire the place with explosives, and they have reasons for doing it, but they include but are not limited to extorting money. So what will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So why do I say this is the most bizarre film I've ever seen? This film was mesmerising. I legitimately mean that. But it's such a weird film in the fact that it's just, this is a remake of a Die Hard clone. This film was like one of those Die Hard clones, Die Hard clone in a sports stadium. Why is it so bizarre, you might say? This movie has the biggest, weirdest tonal differences I think I've ever seen in a film. Because on the surface of this is more or less a straight action remake with martial art fights, people getting killed, people getting blown up by bombs, shots, necks broken, stuff like that. But it has this weird child-like atmosphere to it, where if you've ever watched kids programs, I don't know what you have in America really, but you have these kids program where everyone's overacting. Hi kids, how about, it's like that. It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Well, certainly in the movies and in the last 3 years. What can I say that works about this movie? I was legitimately mesmerised. I haven't seen anything like this. It's so weird. I don't know if it was done on purpose. I can't imagine so, but it's just even Michael J. White, who is very watchable, is really hamming it up here, but it's not to the point where it's meant to be a parody. It's just this weird thing where all the characters, some more than others, the janitor guy, who is a big part in the movie, he looks like he should be, maybe doing a kids show, one of those. I don't know about this guy. He's a bit of a creepy guy, but I don't know. It's the weirdest thing, but it is so unusual that it makes it watchable in a weird way because you just can't believe what you're seeing. It's the weirdest thing. I actually gotta say though, this does show a softer side to Michael J. White, and I like this family scenes. And even though he is the action hero, and he does the action hero things, he fights the bad guys, he's heroic, he saves people, yada, yada, yada. But he does it with this less so with him, but still to a degree, with this weird child entertainer tone going through the movie. But, I did like Michael J. White's character. I'd also say that his two kids, especially his daughter, are the most adorable kids I think I've seen in films in modern years. His daughter just stole the screen. The girl who plays the daughter, stole the screen whenever she was on. Her character was fantastic. This really little sassy 11-year-old. Played really well by the child actress, and she is, her scenes are fantastic. She is in it quite a lot again, but only a supporting sort of minor character, really. And I gotta say, I quite like Michael Eklund. He always plays like a jittery bad guy. And, he's one of these sort of character actors that you've probably seen in a whole bunch of stuff. As I say, normally plays bad guys, does a lot of kind of like CW shows, things like this. But he's a face that you'll probably recognise, and I've reviewed a variety of films with him in there. He never seems to age as well. He seems to have stayed one of those actors that seems to have stayed the same age for decades almost. And there are some, on the legitimate side, there are some very good fight scenes. In particular, there's a guy who plays one of the kind of the henchmen called Omega. I can't think of the actor's name, but I think there's a lot of stunt work normally. It's more of a stuntman. But he's a fantastic martial artist. That is obviously Michael J. White. And there are some legitimately good martial arts sequences here. Especially those two guys, when they kind of fight. They're obviously, I would say, probably the most... well trained, it seems, at least, out of kind of everyone here from a kind of martial art background. So there is some legitimately good kind of sort of action sequences as well. And some of the kind of what I would say the on-purpose comedy moments sometimes I think do work. There's an instance, for example, where Michael J. White, I don't really want to spoil it, but he's basically using what looks like a gun, but it isn't really. It's something else, and it takes a while for the bad guys to realise what it is. And it was quite a funny gag, to be honest. If you just assume when someone's pointing something at you, it's a gun, and it's kind of like, it isn't actually. It's something completely different. But it was quite a funny gag. So there are a couple of gags here, which I do think kind of work on their own without the kind of the weird, ironic kind of tone about it. But let's talk about that tone. It's so bizarre. Honest, I don't think you can't really watch this movie in an unironic way, because it's, imagine if you've ever seen the film UHF, and you've got like Weird Al Yankovic and the kind of like the janitor guy from that film. It's like in this film, it's just that the janitor guy is so over the top. Yippee-yay! Kind of, I don't know. He's just like, they even mention Die Hard. They have a big thing about when they talk about Die Hard, which I did appreciate, I must admit. But his character especially, but not just him. We have like this kind of like this rapper guy upstairs, really kind of like hamming it up to the ultimate cheese. I mean, I think they were trying to go for maybe an action comedy, but it goes so far beyond that. I honestly don't think if you don't like cheesy stuff, then you won't like this film. It's as simple as that. It just goes too far beyond the pale to watch this. If you wanted to watch kind of like a genuine, serious remake of the sudden death movie from Van Damme, and it is. I think it's also paired with some seriously bad acting. So, like I said, I don't think this tone was necessarily deliberate. I think it was meant to be an action comedy to a point, but this weird sort of tone where you literally feel like you're having an action movie inside a children's TV program, but with the full-on violence. That is what it feels like. It's the most obscure thing I think you'll ever see. If you were an action movie fan, I mean, just imagine watching. I mean, I don't know the American like things that you have in America, but here, kind of like Blue Peter and things like this, and just weird children's programs. I mean, I don't even know what children's programs are around these days, but imagine that, but in an action film. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and I was entertained, but I think it kind of. If you're actually wanting this as a proper action film, I don't know. I just don't know how that's going to mesh with a lot of people. The acting, as I've said, though, is it's just very, very basic, I think, by some people. And like I said, Michael J. White is cheesing it up a little bit, or at least that's how he's being directed to. I think maybe this is coming from the director, but some of the acting here is just not good. It's really very, very kind of silly acting. The movie has a kind of very much a TV feel to it, if that makes sense. It feels like it's a TV episode of some type of action series or something like that. it is kind of quite cliche. You know, you take that weird sort of tone out of it. The actual movie itself is kind of cliche. Like I said, the original Sudden Death was a clone of Die Hard, so it seems like an odd thing to remake, and it's actually one of Van Damme's better movies. And I would have thought it would have been better maybe to redo or remake one of his maybe ones that hadn't turned out so well. This one I think was relatively well regarded. And it doesn't really do anything new with the story outside of a couple of twists. And I've got to say, the bad guy's motivations seem kind of weak. Even that we have this kind of intro at the beginning where we see like a military kind of flashback, and this is how he kind of ends up, you know, getting injured and stuff. And at first it was so cheesy. I thought, oh, is this going to be some like TV program where they're going to pan out and someone's watching a TV show because it's all kind of like, you know, silly and cheesy. No, it's actually a real flashback. So if for people who don't like comedy in their action or weird, ironic kind of like tonal shifts, then this isn't going to be one for you. But it's such a unusual watch. I couldn't help being enthralled by it in a weird way. So it's a hard film to really rate because if I put my critical hat on, this movie it's just doesn't feel like it's really a particularly good film in any way. But at the same time, it's such an unusual film because like I said, it doesn't spoof the genre. It doesn't do anything kind of like wacky plot-wise, really. Not that any other kind of cheesy action film wouldn't do, but it just has this weird undertone of this like kids TV thing that is never really addressed. It's just there the whole way through the film. It's such a bizarre film. I'm gonna have to say I'll give it a 5 out of 10. I actually don't think it's a good film, if we're being completely honest. But it's such a unique kind of feeling and kind of like a watch. I was never bored in it. I was never not entertained. And I was just seeing where this weird ride would take me. And it's just like, it's unlike an action film that I've ever watched before, even though the plot is very generic. It's such a weird film to have to try and describe. So it's a 5 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? I believe it was on Netflix in the States, although it's coming out on Blu-ray here in the UK. 5 out of 10, leave me a comment, let me know if you've seen it. What did you think of it? What did you think of the weird sort of tone? It's so hard to even describe, let alone watch. Anyway, leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.